musical instruments, and that's what we do. So I wanted to give you some options for bilingual music. This is going to be predominantly English and Spanish. Please keep your mind open. So we're going to start with We Are Marching. We're going to sing that in English, and then in Spanish, and then in Swahili.
My King and my
seminar in bilingual literature. How to, some of your best practices, how to do it, how to have fewer gray errors in the process. So, if this is something you are in charge of at your fair, some of this is for you. This is something you're participating in. Some of it's for you. Don't make any changes without consulting your pastor, music director, liturgy director, etc. But these are things that I found work. So, if I talk too fast, let me know. I'm just a bit fast. I'm sorry. So I feel like there are three buzzwords in my mind for bilingual liturgy: intentionality, humility, flexibility. Those are the three things that you mostly think about. So, intentionality. Why are we having bilingual liturgy? Why are you choosing the music you're choosing? So, humility. You are stepping into a new culture. You don't know it. Do not assume you know it. That is extreme hubris. Like, be humble, be open to new experiences. And then flexibility. Bilingual ministry is a lot about give and take. And I feel like as musicians, we are uniquely equipped to do that. We are built for collaboration as musicians, I think more so than non-musicians. And because of that, that means that we are responsible for leading the way and putting up the united front. So, okay, how do you do that? Intentionality. When you are planning, have group planning sessions. So when you're planning music for whatever you're planning, like get-togethers or get the ministries in both languages in the same room. Have the clergy there, because that way, if there are like stats for a need for translation, like, okay, father's there, you can kind of help that out. But you want to have those meetings because any disagreements, any confusion, you got to hash that out in private. Because when you are in front of the people, you have to be united first. Because the people, like, change is hard, right? Nobody likes change. Everybody wants to just keep doing their ministry and their prayer life in the same way they've always done it. Even though it means they're not going to grow, but they'd still rather do it that way. That's human nature. So, anytime you ask them to make even the slightest change, you're going to get people who are like, major distance, right? Like, have you experienced this yet? Yeah, and when you add, like, even if you were making a non-cultural change, even if it had nothing to do with language, people still resist it. And then when you add a language change on top of it, like, we'll get angry real fast, and that's frustrating. So you have to be, like, as clergy, as ministry leaders, you have to be united front. I say, like, yes, this is what we're doing. Here's why. Isn't it great? So hash out the disagreements in meetings. So when you're in front of people, you're all together. Yeah? Questions so far? Okay. And also, I think people are more likely to buy in when they can see, like, oh, okay, they're all in that. Okay, I'll do that. I don't know how it is in your individual parishes. I feel like the times that we are most likely to have bilingual liturgies, because like on a general Sunday, right, you can have, like, okay, the 8 and the 10 are in English, and the 12 in Spanish, and the 1 is in English, right? We can do that. But when are the times that we need to be together? Christmas, Holy Week, and then if you've got maybe sacraments, and then if there's like a special mass, we're installing a new mass, or we're having a special prayer service. So if those are the moments that we're planning for, then how do we set up for that? So okay, we're all going to be together at Christmas. There can only be one midnight mass. We have to use Advent as our time of preparation. Like we know as Catholics, Advent is our time of preparing our hearts for Christmas. We are preparing a community to come together. Lent, we are preparing our hearts for Easter. We are also preparing ourselves musically and as a congregation and liturgically for Easter. So, things that I have found work well is if you can get, for Advent and Lent, can you get the same mass parts for all the masses? So, Latin chant is a nice neutral territory because it's everybody's language and it's nobody's language all at once, right? So if we all agree, okay, at English masses, at the Spanish masses, at the Polish masses, we are all chanting the psalms. People will whine because it's something new, and there are going to be people who freak out because they're like, chant, you're talking about old times. No, chant is our history. Chant is beautiful. That Latin is you go to any church anywhere in the world, and that will be a thing that you can do. Yeah? So So we all chant it at our individual masses, and then we come together as one community for Christmas or for Easter. Oh, but we all know this. We can all sing the same thing instead of, well, you know this holy, holy, and you know this santo, santo, santo. We want to have that one thing. So if you can use Lent, use Advent to set that up, yeah. Good thing. Do you know the Latin chants? You know them? Okay, good. I feel like that's becoming a little bit more common now in the Arch, so it's a good thing. Your Alleluia or your Lenten Gospel acclamation, what I've had success in, because like, okay, there's not a, I feel like the chants are less popular. So we would say these, like some years, I would ask the Spanish partner, okay, what do you use it for your Lenten Gospel acclamation? And he would sing it to me, and then I would write it out in English. So we would have the same music. I would sing it in English, he would sing it in Spanish, but at least everybody knew the same tune. So then for Holy Week, it was like, hey, well, we'll sing it bilingually. Everybody at least knows it. Yeah? And again, these are, how much authority do you have to make decisions on this? I don't know, but you can still, like, if you didn't think about it. Again, to me, like, the intention of it is, like, why are we doing this? We're preparing everybody to have something. Yeah? Something that can also be useful for Advent or Lent, if you want to have a seasonal opening hymn or seasonal closing hymn, could be a Latin or it could be one thing where like, okay, these masses are singing this song in English and they're singing in Spanish. And it could be, we did, do you know Bajo Cantado? I don't know it in Spanish, but we fly to thy protection, O Holy Mother of God. It's chanty, but it was, our Spanish masses were singing it in Spanish, so we got the English translation, and it was just, again, it was something we all had in common. Having a small repertoire is not a bad thing. Like, I think you're better off having, like, hey, you've got these, especially while it's new, if you've got like, hey, we got 4 bilingual pieces that everybody knows, that's great. That's better than having 20 things that nobody knows. Yeah? And it takes time. Start with those handful, and maybe 5, 10 years from now, your handful expands. But you want people to be able to have full, active, conscious participation. So for that to happen, repetition is good. With me so far? Any questions so far? Okay. Worship aids, I think, are a really helpful thing because I have not yet found a hymnal that has everything I need, and especially when you're dealing with bilingual. Like a gather hymnal has songs in Spanish, but is it songs that your Spanish community knows? I'm singing at a funeral once, and they were doing as a closing hymn, they did Enrique Manos, and then they sang it in English, and they felt like, oh, how come we did it in English? They are singing, well, the white people don't know Enrique Manos. It was nice that you sang it in English, they could understand it, but they weren't going to participate because it wasn't culturally a song they knew. So, if you can sort of find, like, here's the ones we agree upon that this community knows, and have them in front of people, right? Because if you don't put at least the words in front of people, they're not going to stay. My experience is that a lot of the Spanish language music wasn't necessarily published like with notes, but at least if you can put the words in front of people, that's a start. You can get the notes in front of them too, that's nice, but you gotta give people the words. And you gotta be like, hey, here's our seasonal worship aid. Here are these like 4 or 5 songs that we're gonna do a lot. You increase their odds of participation. Yeah? Okay. Actual bilingual music versus translation. So again, there's okay. When you think of like bilingual songs, anything jump out to you? What would you say? Yeah. Okay. Do you know that particular one? Okay. Yeah. So there's some that are. I feel like there's a lot more of just like this is an English song that has been translated into Spanish. This is a Spanish song that has been translated into English. Actual bilingual songs that like people are familiar with. My experience. Pescado de Hombres. I feel like that one is people actually know that one languages. You know that one, yeah?
Yeah. It was just not popular in English at the moment, but once we.
Oh, see, that one's popular in English.
in our community,
Yeah.
we just started bilingual, but here
Really?
just started.
So you can see it's so regional too, right? Like I have known that one for forever. When I went to school in DC, everyone knew it there, but like it's, what is your community? So like that one to me is like, okay, lots of people that breathe Cuenas, I feel like is another one that my experience is people are comfortable with that in both languages. But like if you're singing Be Not Afraid in Spanish, yeah, you sing in Spanish, but it's not something people culturally know. If your community is used to singing on a hymnal, great, use that. But if your community doesn't know that hymnal, they don't know the songs, yeah. So the thing you can do to help is just like I said, you sort of just have to establish like, okay, what are the songs that we are gonna know? So if you know this Bread of Life on the Vida, like that's to me that's a nicely written bilingual song because it alternates without having just like a massive amount of repetition. It's not like, well, I sang verse 1 in English and then I sang the same verse 1 in Spanish, right? Like that one's nice. But just like pick a handful, roll with it. And even if you do want to do like, okay, this song that was in Spanish and then we translate it, at least if you're like, we've agreed upon this one that our community values, then roll with it. Limited repertoire. It's okay. It's okay. As musicians, we usually like we want to change that more, but like let people get to know it. So with me so far?
Yes.
Any questions so far? Am I talking too fast?
No, you're correct.
Okay.
We're in our minds.
In the context of a mass, so I feel like general best practices are that you're going to do first reading in one language, have the song match it in that language to the second reading in the other language. The gospel to me is like the one time that maybe you would get away with like reading it twice. The gospel. Like, again, how much authority you have in this, discuss with your pastor. That's sort of like the general best practices. And then in terms of the music, you have two options. You can have, we try to make the music bilingual, or you can have the Spanish choir sings this song, and then the English choir sings this song. The Spanish choir sings this song, and the English choir sings this song. I personally am less of a fan of that, because I feel like it doesn't work so the exception to that is like if it's confirmation, and you need like a straight hour of music, then pick your battles, and I might just use you like, hey, you guys do a song you know? No, we do a song we know, because it might be hard to get everyone to learn that one. So that's like, but even then, if you can at least have like, okay, you put package together the music for the choir, so everyone can see it. You know, the Spanish speakers might like kind of be able to figure out one of these songs by the end. The English speakers might be like, oh, you do these things, I'm getting it, okay? Worst comes to worst, it's gonna sound cheesy, but like, there's always laughing, you know? Like, you could all, like, my first Easter Vigil at St. Pete's. And we're going to talk about preparation for masses, but like, okay, I thought we had prepped well. I thought, but we didn't get to everything. And I didn't realize we hadn't ever practiced the closing hymn for the vigil. And the Spanish choir director said, oh, we're going to do, it's CCLI. And I was like, oh, wait, that's a nice gathered hymnal. We got it. Okay. And he starts it, and I was like, these notes aren't doing what I thought they were going to do. But okay, they're saying the word CCLI. And then all of a sudden it was, El León de la Tribu de, and I was like, and my choir's looking at me like, what? And I was like, just clap. You're still participating, just clap. Like, that counts. It does. Like, and then it took a couple years, but they learned El León de la Tribu. Like, they got it. But I was also like, I told the Spanish choir, I'm like, you have to give me the words. I have to at least put the words in front of them. Because if I said to Phil, oh, we're going to do one bread, one body, you know that one's coming, right? Like, he does. But if I said, gee, okay, one bread, one body, everybody knows that. If you didn't grow with it, you don't know it. Same thing when our Spanish partner would be like, oh, okay, we're doing Pedro Jesus. Yeah? I'm like, no, I didn't grow with that one. I don't know it. Give people the words. Put the words in front of them. Assembly, choir, you have to give them the words. Even the people who are looking at something in not their native language, like, they can try. They can fumble their way through it little by little and gain confidence if they've got something from it. Still with me so far?
Yes.
Any questions?
No, it looks like you're behind us.
Okay. It was 10 years ago. This is a lot. So for your ensembles, you've got your own weekly rehearsals, right? Okay, if we're getting ready for Confirmations, we're getting ready for work for this week. Like, schedule separate rehearsals that are going to, like, you can work on stuff on your own with your group, but you need to have rehearsals together. Because the group needs to see what it feels like. The groups need to get to know each other. Like, how are we building a community? How are we evangelizing? But we gotta come together. We gotta learn that, like, we are all God's children, and we are all united in the same purpose of this ministry. So, have rehearsals, make the packets. Make sure that, like, just put everything in one place for the people. This is your Holy Thursday packet. And then, we talked about humility, like, understand different groups rehearse different ways. Me personally, I like to have notes on the page. I like to be able to read that. That's me. Other groups go very much back here. Some groups, it's like, hey, here's, everybody's looking, the teams are all looking on their phone for the words. So, there's not a right way and a wrong way. You just have to understand, like, the groups are used to rehearsing differently. Be patient with that. See if you can speak to all versions of it. If you can put together for the group like a YouTube playlist or a CD of like, hey, here's what everything sounds like, so this way if they're used to learning by ear, they can go home and they can listen to all the stuff. That's going to help them learn a little bit faster. Yeah. Also in rehearsal, like take time and talk about diction. Because, I don't want to name names on that comment. Sometimes you will have, let's say a presenter who, I can speak X language. Okay, hold on. Me llamo Teresa. Yo estoy hablando español. Like, I'm speaking Spanish. No. So, take time and make sure that each song that you are going over, how do you say this? Make sure in both languages. Like, don't assume people know anything. Go over to Latin. Have somebody in your group that is confident in explaining that. If you're working in Latin, you can talk for a second. So Latin diction is the same diction that you have in Spanish or Italian. So like you wouldn't say Agnus Dei tolis peccatam di miserere, but like the T's are some Agnus Dei tolis peccatam di. So you want to make sure everybody understands that, is doing it correctly. You don't want re, no, so I'm chewing this stuff. You want to make sure that people know it's were you there when they crucified my Lord. That's a Lord, that you have nice clear diction in both languages. So take the time, go over that. It's whether or not it makes a huge difference to the congregation, like your choir should know that. Because your choir, your singers, again, those are your leaders, so if they can feel more comfortable in a secondary language, then we've already talked about like music ministers and clergy having a united front. If the choir that is with you in the united front, people are just that much harder for them to complain because they see like, oh, this is going well, and people are having fun, and this is not scary. But if it's done badly, it doesn't really get you to work. Yeah? Okay. Okay, so humility, you're working with other ensembles, right? So if you are the leader of that ensemble, like you're used to being a leader, but your colleague is also used to being a leader. So like, talk to them and just sort of have that sense of like, okay, when are you kind of taking lead on this? When am I taking lead on this? It's good for your soul, but it's also like the choirs need to see that, okay, we're good. Okay, Vinny, you're going to count this one off. This is your song. You know it better. Okay, and then I'll step in and I'm going to teach this part. And if you can kind of share that authority, it's easier for the choir to learn more. Yeah? Yeah, so just like when you step up, when you step back. It's good for this one. Duolingo is awesome. Okay, so you're working with another community, you're working with another language. You should understand that language. You should take some effort into learning that language. You might be fluent in it, but like if you're going to be working in a congregation that has a lot of Polish speakers, it is a kindness to learn some Polish. If you're working, we got to just adopt the Vietnamese church, like that's hospitality That's evangelizing. That's just, and it's good for your brain. And you're musicians. You're going to pick up other languages faster. So just understand it as a kindness, as hospitality, but also you all know, like if you're singing something in not your native language, it can be obvious when somebody doesn't know what they're saying, right? When they're just singing syllables. So you're going to sing it better, you're going to pray it better if you understand the words you're singing. Yeah. Again, humility, be open to new styles of worship. So I grew up at St. Edward's in Mount Prospect in the like 80s, 90s. So it had that like 80s, 90s sense of liturgy and worship, and there was more guitar. And I remember Father Ron at my first communion, he was like leading the great name, like singing louder, and like that was what I grew up. And I loved that. That served me well. And I went to college, and I had 2 years at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, which was like high mass. And I loved it. And it served me well, and I learned new ways of worship. And then I sang for 2 years at a parish out there that was like the perfect combo of high mass and Bach and Beethoven, but it was also a parish. And I was like, this is different. Never experienced this before. This is so cool. And then I had 10 years at St. Bede's, where it was a very bilingual community. I learned a lot more about Spanish music. There was way more clapping and joy and exuberance in the worship experience. And I loved that. And then I loved when some of the teams in the Spanish choir would be like, oh, so you can that. I loved when we did this like really quiet song in English, because I've never experienced music like that. And now I'm at another parish, and I've got a pastor that wants to chant and like super contemporary music. None of those new experiences lessened what I had before. None of those experiences ever said what you did before was wrong. It was just always like, you had this before, now you have this, and now you have this. It's like, be open to it. It's only going to help your faith life. It's only going to help your worship be better if you are open to it. But if you take anything new as an attack, as a like, you're trying to tell me that I've been a Catholic for 60 years, and you're trying to tell me everything I did before was wrong. No, I'm not trying to tell you that at all. I'm trying to tell you that your world was this before, and it can be this, and it can be this. It's only going to make it better. So just be open. Be humble. Okay. Any questions?
No,
you're sure. Okay. Phil, any questions? No. Okay. Flexibility. So like I said before, I feel like as musicians, we are built to collaborate. Like that's just part of being a musician. You almost never do your music alone. It's always like, okay, you're playing guitar, I'm singing music. And then you're in that music, and then Phil's gonna do this cool thing, and okay, I'm gonna like drum or something. Like that's amazing. When we were in my church sermon, I felt like, oh, they needed more musicians on the committee, because we just we like to collaborate. It's what we do. We are experienced. We have those muscles. And you don't realize that it's a muscle until you're around people that are not used to collaborating. And then you're like, oh, I've done this before. So it's a little bit more natural. So, bilingual liturgy is all about collaborating and being flexible. So, sort of baked into bilingual liturgy is the positive aspect of it is like you're going to get to learn cool new things. That's the good way to look at it. It also does mean that some of the things that you have always done before, you might not get to do because you're doing another thing instead. So that can be fraught for people, especially at Christmas, because people really want to hear the songs they know at Christmas. So just heads up, that's a time when you're going to have. We had, I don't remember if we did 2 years or just 1 year, where as a closing hymn for Christmas, we did Feliz Navidad. Because the pastor suggested it, not at all. But it was like, well, everybody knows it, it's bilingual, nobody likes it, but we're all in agreement that nobody likes it, okay, it was something. But yeah, I definitely, I had phone calls from people that was, you didn't do Joy to the World on Christmas at midnight mass, and so Christmas was ruined. And the first couple of years of those phone calls, I would cry. And then eventually I was like, well, Light FM is going to play it 20 times today. I bet you can listen to it in the car on the way home. But just understand that people want to, Christmas is a tough. People really want to know what they are. I think people are a little less emotionally attached to you didn't do my favorite Holy Thursday song. A little bit less emotional attachment to that. And then, like, you know, your sacraments or other things, like, if you built up your repertoire of bilingual stuff, or just of like, hey, this is now an English song that everybody knows, this is a Spanish song that everybody knows, at least if you build up the repertoire, it's good. You're gonna wind up maybe, like I said before, different cards reversed different ways, so like, you'll learn new ways to reverse. Again, I'm used to this. I went to college, so I worked with this. And my parents will tell you, we spent a lot of money so I could know how to do this. So the first time I was in a rehearsal where it was all by ear, my brain was like, oh, it doesn't compute. And I'm like, wait, no, you can do this. You can learn by ear. And then it was nice for me to be able to, like, okay, let's talk about, like, let's read some notes. And can you see how it goes up and it goes down? Like, you learn new things. Be patient with people. Work on developing a thick skin. I have virtually every gray hair on my head is from bilingual ministry. It's tough, but it's so fun. Yeah, they had hair dye for that. But like what you are doing is important. Because if this is the new evangelization. If we only say, no, I'm only doing things the way I did them before, we're not going to make it. We're not. Like, you have to be willing to try some new things. You have to say, hey, this is what my community is right now, and that is beautiful, and I want it to grow. So, I don't have a big skin yet. Like, I still cry a million times in love, but like, it's thicker than it used to be. It's better. It's important work. It really is. And again, we're the musicians, we're the leaders of the community. We gotta trust and support. Yeah, change is hard for people. Change is really hard. So be patient with them to a degree, with people as they learn how to change, and then work on sort of being able to filter out like what is genuine good feedback versus what is a person that just like is frustrated and being heard, and then what is the person who's just like mad and missing the point. And those people that are missing the point, you just kind of like, okay, thank you for your feedback. We're doing the best we can. Yeah, I'm going to end on a happier note than that. Again, it's hard. Like, when you get it right, it's so beautiful. Because you know that you worked hard to make it happen. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, we did the same, I sang the same 10 songs that I've known for years, and like you know that you worked really hard to make it happen. And I do firmly believe, I don't have a lot of patience with people that are like, oh, well, God will provide the Holy Spirit. I'm like, no, you have to work at it. You have to get 99 yards down the field, and then the Holy Spirit will take you over, you know, the goal line. And it does happen. And you'll have those moments where, like, confirmation maps, and everybody's sitting together, and like you just feel it, and you know that took a lot of work to get you there. It's worth it. So be patient, have courage, you can do it. I guess one last thought before we sing a couple songs. So if you are attached to personal music or less attached to other stuff, I don't think people are too attached to their songs. And songs are a nice way to get bilingual music because they're shorter. I feel like you can double the refrain and not have it be too long. So like if you can be a little bit brave and like write some music, that's a good place to start with. Even if you just write like a refrain and then you use like the chant tones for the verses, that's a nice way to like little by little incorporate some. So I'm sending you home with this one. I wrote this one, so yeah. So you're welcome to use that one. I will praise your name. And again, if you have like, I wrote that one because we had, we were installing our new bathroom, and there was not a bilingual, like there just aren't a lot of bilingual settings. And there should be. We're gonna need them. So like, go write them. Do it. They don't have to be the greatest art in the history of the world. They just have to be, and you'll get better as you go. Yeah, so this was just, we did some violin when I was like, yes, I'm gonna write something. Okay, yeah. And then learn your styles, right? Like you can write it out, you can have just the words and you know what the chords are, be able to teach it to the group. So, okay. So we're gonna close just with a couple other songs just to kind of jam on. So, we're gonna play Pandemida. So this is the Jaime Cortez version. I like this one better than the one that's in like the Gather hymnals. I just would be a little bit more joyful and a little bit more authentically in both cultures instead of like a white people song that got translated together. So here we go. This is so nice on the guitar. Here we go. Bread of life, Alleluia. Wine of love, feed on our blood. All is one body, todos unidos at the table of God, en la mesa de Dios. Fed from the grave and bread, we conjure our faith in you. We are your children, fruit of your promise, fruit of your todos unidos at the table of God, en la mesa de Dios. Todos celebran, formados un solo ser. Somos el cuerpo de Jesucristo, uno con bread of todos unidos at the table of God, en la mesa de Dios. All right, this last one, read. Got music and then I've got text on the last page. So. Eres mi so I can get it like, okay, there's just words on here, right? If we're giving this to a new group, I probably write the Spanish in with the notes, so you have that, you wouldn't have to be finding back and forth. But yeah, two things that I forgot. Pescador is the English translation is different in some people's and others. So there's two big companies, there's GIA and there's OTE. So like the English version is in Campo is not the English version that I like the words are legit, but they're obnoxiously fresh. So just make sure make sure you're all in agreement. Like,
The same.
Hey, we're doing Pescador, start singing. Nope, you got it. Yeah, have the words in it, because otherwise you're gonna get I suppose was it like the one I know, Lord, when you came to the seashore, you were seeking the waters of your glory.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's like
Lord, you have come.
to the seashore, and like yeah. So like, do I like one better? Is it no better? Yeah. But it doesn't really matter. You have to be in agreement as a community. Which one are you?
And I've even seen it, Lord, when you've come to the lake shore. I'm serious. That was in a different hymnal I saw. I'm like, why? You know, so yeah.
The one other thing I wanted to say is, if you have the ability, this was something that my previous pastor suggested. It's brilliant. So let's say you're in a community that is English and Spanish. If you can, throughout the year, at your regular weekend mass, sing a meditation song at the English mass in Italian, sing something in German, or sing something in like getting people's ears just used to other sounds. And they're like, don't be afraid! Other sounds, other languages are not scary. You can like kind of sprinkle that in there, then it's just it's one barrier of fear comes off. So like, if you have the ability, like a meditation is a great place for that, because then you don't need the information from the street. And again, if you put it in a worship meeting so they can see like, oh, she was singing that song in Irish. Holy cow! You know, A, makes you feel cool, but also then they can see the translation. And it's just yeah. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Is there anything I can answer for you? I hope this was helpful. Of course.